Well, it's time for our two favorite Russian pastimes, going to war with Finland and sending people off to the gulags. Today was a good day. Hello everybody, my name is YujimboXD and welcome to the channel. And this week we return to the freshest mods off the Steam Workshop, because this week we have Collapsing World, Rise of Radicalism. And as of the day I'm recording it, this mod came out less than a week ago, so it is still very brand new, but it does look complete enough that I think we can get a game out of it. So this mod is basically a world where World War I ended when several countries collapsed into civil wars. That's the basic gist of it. But truthfully, I don't know a lot about this mod. I kind of just saw this and decided last minute to play it, so I'm going in fairly blind. So when we look at our leaders, as you can tell, there's not a lot of choice just yet. I'm sure more will come later, but at least the few countries they do have on offer do have fully fleshed out focus trees, which I generally think is a better idea for mod developers. Not that I know anything about it, but I think having one or two really good focus trees at the start is more important than trying to get a focus tree for everyone. And I think tonight I'm going to return to my old familiar haunt, Soviet Russia. I do love playing as Russia. They're like an old comfortable pair of shoes. Not the good kind that you'd wear in public, but the kind that you do yard work around the house with. What am I even talking about? Anyways, let's look at the state of things. As you can see, the world has splintered apart into many different pieces in several areas, mostly in Central Europe, but I wouldn't say France got away completely unscathed either. They're looking a bit different these days, but I think for now we'll just concern ourselves with what's going on inside of Russia. So let's just see if all of Lenin's horses and all of Lenin's men can put Russia back together again. Alright, so here we are in Russia, or more specifically Russian SFR. It's really the Soviet Federal Socialist Republic. But why do we have to shorten our name and Poland doesn't have to? Polish Belarusian Military District is just as unwieldy to say. Oh, and it's led by Tukhachevsky. I guess he'd rather hide out in Poland than get purged. Coward. And I was looking around to see what our eternal foe, America, had going on, and it looks like they decided to put an ancient capitalist in charge. But he isn't looking too fresh these days. Hey Rockefeller, why don't you use some of your money to buy some canopic jars, you frickin' mummy? So let's take a look at our focus tree. It looks kind of small now, but I think we'll get more focus trees as time goes on, once we complete the first set of focus trees. But for now, it looks like we're just improving our economy, sometimes through violence. But it's hard to say no to that violence when it's giving you some pretty great buffs. So let's quickly assess our situation. If we are going to have to fight all of Russia, I am in the best position to do it already, because I'm in the part of Russia that has all the supply. And I have the majority of the factories because it's 1922 and we haven't moved those factories yet. And I'm looking through some generals to hire, and not to sound nitpicky, but why is a man who got tortured to death by Beria get a portrait, but the absolute legend Zhukov doesn't get one?
What's a war hero got to do? Get some lubrication around here.
Feels like a pretty grave injustice to me. Oh, and it now looks like Rockefeller was assassinated. Geez, guys, you didn't really want to wait just 2 more weeks for him to keel over? What a bunch of unhinged criminal psychopaths. Not like us. Our death squads are state-sponsored. So much more civilized. So here's something different the mod does from the base game. They've taken out our state of the economy, and instead they've moved it over to the decision trees over here. Although I'm not entirely sure what some of these do. Only one way to find out what it does. Oh, I see. It just lessened this timer, which I guess will trigger something else once it's done. I look forward to seeing what that is then. Like I said, this is actually one of the few rare times I have not played this mod ahead of time, so I do not know what to expect. Well, I can see Revolutionary France is now fighting Spain, and just because they had Revolutionary in their title, I was going to send them volunteers, but it looks like we lost the paperwork for all our soldiers because there's nothing here to send. Well, I guess I'll just have to get my violent tendencies out a different way. Well, it looks like Comrade Lenin has given us an inspiring speech about how we've turned around the economy of our nation, but he also warned that he will not always be with us. Like all good communists, he'll return to Spice to be with his people again one day. Well, it looks like Lenin might be returning to his people a little bit sooner than we expected, because it looks like he was shot by anarchists. So it looks like we now need a new strong leader to lead us. So why not Bogdanov? Just kidding, of course we're gonna go with Stalin. But with great mustaches comes great focus trees. So now we have our second focus tree to work through. We have some more army and economic reforms we can do, all while centralizing our power as we start making our plans for reunification. Normally I'm tempted to rush down the political tree to start the wars as soon as possible, but these 21-day focuses for economic boosts are very tempting to go for. If I understand this one correctly, I get 22 building slots and 11 civilian and military factories in just 21 days. Kind of ridiculous. ridiculous. Yep, that's exactly what that focus meant. But to be fair, that looks like it's the only focus that turbocharges my economy. The rest just feel like pretty standard bonuses. Well, we have our first actual decision in the focus tree to make. We have to decide what to do with our old dissidents. And really, it's just choosing which bonuses we want. And while I could go for some extra oil and steel, I can get those from other people. So I think I'm going to go with the permanent buff instead, with Knights of the Revolution. Aw man, Knights of the Revolution would make a totally awesome disco club name. So our focuses are also letting us now industrialize certain regions of Russia. I'm not really sure what this is doing, but I do enjoy clicking all the buttons. It is very satisfying to my lizard brain. Alright, we finally made it to the bottom half of the second focus tree. And now we're spoiled for choice in which direction we want to expand Russia. So I think I'm going to expand south first. Look, it's even called free territory. So if you're offering, I'll take it. Alright, only 3 years in and we got our first war. And it's against Ukraine, of all people. I just finished readjusting my unit templates, so let's see how good they do against the Ukrainians. And just make sure to set everyone to aggressive. Come on, we got like 16 other wars to do. Chop chop. Alright, that is Ukraine down. And don't cry for them. They're not the Ukraine we all know and love. They were some weird pirate version. So I finally figured out what these little decision wheels do. Once you spam it enough times, you can start to remove some debuffs off the region, which give you construction penalties. That's kind of interesting. I didn't even know you could give regions individual bonuses. Why don't you see that more often? Alright, up next we have the Southern Russian forces. And the true reason I started my campaign in the south was to get my tasty oil fields back. So go and get it back for Papa Stalin, will ya? I kinda needed to prop up my entire economy. What are you talking about? Zhukov isn't wounded, you just made him angry. Alright, we're across the Kerch Bridge and we should be behind their lines now. Now it should just be a matter of rushing their victory points. There we go, easy peasy. I'm starting to suspect I know how the rest of this run is going to go. Well, I think next I'm going to go after my dissident warlords who broke away and formed their own nations after the revolution. If they won't come back to be purged, then I'll bring the purge to them. Wait a minute, who's Tukhachevsky getting help from? Oh, I was right, it is Ford Motors, which I was really excited there for a moment. I thought they'd taken over all of the US, but nope, it's just the US doing what it does in mods and broke apart. So the first warlord we're gonna deal with is old Pavel over here in the Baltic states. I can't even bring my full army over here because I barely have enough supply as is. There we go, got some of them encircled already. There we go, the Baltic states are down, and I've made this hideously long border with Tukhachevsky. Have fun defending that. Well, maybe we can actually negotiate with Tukhachevsky first. I've got a deal for you. You give me all of Poland, and I let you live. And it looks like he said no. I was secretly hoping you'd say that. I'd like to try out my new air force, so this seems like the perfect opportunity. At dawn, look to the east, and you'll just see a horde of Russians coming at you. There we go. As soon as I snaked my units into Danzig, it was over. So that takes care of my western front, but I do think I can be friends with Marxist Germany, who's about to win their civil war, so hopefully I won't have to worry about that border. And maybe we can be friends? Are communists allowed to have friends? Or can I get like a state-issued one or something? Have you heard the news? Me neither, but all I can tell you is Stalin is somehow involved. Well, we somehow managed to take Tukhachevsky alive, so we're going to put him on trial. And for some reason, this trial is going to give us some rather strange buffs. I have no idea why it gives me an increased chance for female army leaders. Can someone please explain that one to me? I feel like I'm missing a interesting bit of history there. Well, I think my next biggest rival is the Russian state, but I still have some options to bully some smaller states first. So I think I'm just going to give myself a larger front against them for later. Alright, let's begin our march to the south. First up are the Cossacks, who share this fairly long border with me, and unfortunately for them, I count 5 divisions on their front line. So I have a sneaking suspicion this won't take very long. Oh yeah, and I have their cipher. Why not use that? They're already getting mauled, so why not just make it worse for them? There we go, Cossacks are down. Looks like we can get some of those horses we talked about earlier. Well, it looks like we need a new director for our spy agency, and the only name I recognized in this list was Beria, but I really don't want a fat Nosferatu who stalks the streets of Moscow looking for little girls to feed on. So instead I think I'm gonna go with Gleb here, and apparently he was a paranormal investigator? My guy was out here looking for the Babadook, so if he can hunt ghosts and demons, I think that's good enough to hunt spies. Alright, but up next we got the War on the Steppes, and it looks like they're trying to one-up the Cossacks by going with the no division plan. It's a bold strategy, let's see if it pays off. I don't even think I'm gonna even bother to use my air force here. What is the point? There we go, our little walking tour is over and now they're annexed. And now the last piece we need in the south is the Kyrgyz Socialist Republic, led by Igorov over here. But it looks like somebody finally knows their place and he's just going to give all his land to us directly. And for that, I'll give you one get out of purge free card. So I think for now I'm going to keep bullying smaller nations, but I am going to keep an eye on the Russian state in case they decide to try and stab me in the back. And don't mind that all my units are starving over here in the desert. There's plenty more supply and manpower where that came from. Well, when Igorov handed over his country, it looks like I picked up 17 more divisions, but it's actually getting to the point where I'm having to spread these units around because I'm just running them out of supply no matter where I put them. First world Soviet problems. But alright, up next we have the Finnish question, and that question is Finland even a country? Stalin doesn't seem to think so. He just looks at it as land temporarily not part of Russia. Oh, and also completing the focus that declares war on Finland will annex this little puppet we have over here. Wait a minute, who the heck is this guy? Is this Stalin's dad? I'm sorry, father, you should have eaten me while you had the chance. Well, it's time for our two favorite Russian pastimes, going to war with Finland and sending people off to the gulags. Ah, today was a good day. Oh, looked away for 1 second and Finland is dead. It was just that quick. Welcome home, Finland. You can check out anytime you'd like, but you can never leave. Well, I wasn't paying too much close attention, but it looks like France finally lost that war they had going on against Spain. And I only noticed it because I've never seen France this color. They're a sickly color green. And I guess they got kicked so hard in the teeth, they don't even have a name now. Well, I think the time has come at last. I've put it off as long as I could, but I think it's finally time to start our war with the Russian state. I built as many supply lines as I could over here, so hopefully it won't be too painful. And I'm just banking all their victory points being on the western side of Russia, because fighting through Siberia has always been a chore. Well, the war with the Russian state has officially started, and it looks like our foe is Kolchak. All I know is he's the Russian boat guy. So not that I think it's gonna matter, but I literally don't have a navy, so I think it would actually be kind of hilarious if he navally invaded me somewhere. Alright, so let's just get the Air Force out everywhere, and I'll use their cipher that I stole ages ago. There we go, looking green across the line. I even added some mechanized units to my tank divisions to beef them up a bit. And I've learned my lessons from the past, and I'm just going to be constantly building supply lines as I push forward. Will it end up making it look like a mess at the end? Yes. But once I'm done fighting here, I'm never going to look at this region ever again. Oh, interesting. This looks like it's the first warlord who's willing to negotiate. If we give him his old navy job back, he'll just give us all of Russia, and we won't have to fight through all of Siberia. And he super pinky swears not to commit sabotage. Sure, let's do it. Anything to not have to fight through this mess. Nice. Just a few last pieces to go. Alright, as the focus implies, this is the last push in the east. I didn't really have time to build a lot of supply lines out here, but we're just gonna have to go for it. I think I'll be able to manage all 5 of their divisions. There we go, Far East Republic down. And now to deal with the Japanese, who think it's okay to just steal land from me when I'm busy having civil wars. You don't see the West interfering when you're having civil wars? Oh, wait. Alright, it's time to push the Japanese out, and I'm kinda sending in my tank divisions unsupported because I'm just sort of banking on the Japanese not having any troops here. Hey, and that worked. And no longer are we the Russian Socialist Republic, because now we're the Soviet Union. It feels good to be back. And don't call it a comeback or we'll send you to the gulag. And with that, we get our third and what I presume is the final focus tree. And I say it's the final focus tree because it looks like it's filled with some grand ambitions. I will say though, reuniting the Soviet Union has come at a cost. It looks like Papa Stalin has aged a good 30 years. I don't know what he's getting so stressed out about. This run has gone pretty easily so far. Maybe he needs to go on vacation or do some more purges, whatever it is he does to unwind. So I can see Germany decided to form their own cool kid club and not invite me to it. I'm not mad, not jealous, but here's a war crime I did prepare earlier. I've been secretly justifying on Czechoslovakia. I have a plan, and for that plan to work, it'll be easier if I have Czechoslovakia under my control. Look at that, I'm only using 1/4 of my army. This isn't even my final form. There we go. I just wanted to get closer to Germany. Fine, you don't want to invite me to your club, Germany? I'll make my own faction, and let's see what powerful members I can get. Well, it looks like I can invite the Shanxi and the Zhejiang. Always a good sign when your new allies can't even stand in the center of their frame for their picture. Well, the time has come. This world ain't big enough for 2 communist factions, so one of us has to go. And I'd rather it be you than me. You may have an enormous faction, but I've got the power of mustache. Let me show you how a real communist does it. You just gotta have a wanton disregard for everyone's life. So enjoy the meat waves. There we go. Now that's how you communism. I see your problem now, Germany. Half your puppets are in the middle of nowhere. Well, there we go. I bet you didn't expect this run to end with me having pieces of Africa and Southeast Asia, but we got there eventually. But the rest of this focus tree is basically world conquest mode. And at this point, I don't think anyone has any chance of stopping me from invading them. So I think that's good enough for now. So that was Collapsing World, Rise of Radicalism. And you know, for being a brand new mod, it was actually a lot of fun. It's always nice to have a little game where you can start off small and snowball into something much bigger. But I will say that it probably was the one downside of this mod. The fact that you can pick off smaller countries at your leisure and not have to really worry about anyone else coming after you makes things a lot easier. But I'm sure they'll make changes as time goes on. And I would still highly recommend trying out this mod for yourself. So that is where we'll leave it off for tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. If there are any other mods or games you'd like to see, let me know down in the comments below. And remember, this is what happens to your body everybody 1 year on communism. So stay safe out there. Good night, everyone.